cover some of the content that we do when we go out to clients and we do end user workshops. So these workshops tend to be for 10, 12 people, and we bring people in a room and we tell them about what SharePoint is, why their company is going to be starting to use it, and give them a quick hands-on session so they can just have a play, get the feel to it, and start to understand how they might be using it within their team or within their department. So it really is sort of very basic SharePoint stuff. We cover document libraries, sites, dragging and dropping document libraries, documents into libraries, editing documents, having a play, doing some co-authoring, looking at columns and some of the things that you can do with scheduling documents, getting documents better organised in a SharePoint-y sort of way, and really just starting to familiarise people with some of the concepts that they're going to be working with as they start to use that within their work life. So that's what we're going to do today. We're clicking over to the presentation. We're going to have a very quick look at the SharePoint structures and how SharePoint's put together. We're then going to dive in, have a look at a basic SharePoint site and some document libraries, play with some files, have a look at the lists, and then wrap up. So we're going to really quickly go through it in about half an hour. And hopefully by the end of it, if you don't know anything about SharePoint, you'll start to get a very, very brief overview of what it is and what it can do for you. So that's the agenda that we're going to run through. So what is SharePoint? SharePoint is a platform. So when you get SharePoint out of the box, and we'll show this shortly, you get a single site, a single document library, a single page really, and it doesn't really do an awful lot for you out of the box. It's a platform that you have to build on, and you have to create your company's intranet and your file storage systems, your lists, your company processes. And so really SharePoint can meet its own worst enemy. It's very easy to use, and it's very easy to dive in and start creating things and playing about. But if you're going to create a system for your whole organization to use, it really has to be done in a very thoughtful way and in a very organized way. And somehow you have to break the chicken and egg cycle of knowing how SharePoint works and how it's best put together, whilst trying to sort of learn it and do things with it within your organisation. Obviously, this is something that we can help kickstart within organisations, where we can come in and sell sort of small packs where we just familiarise you and bring you up to speed a lot more quickly than you can do yourself. So fundamentally, it's a document management system. It's used for storing and managing documents in a much more sophisticated way than you can do using a normal shared file system. There's lots of functionality in there so that documents start to know what they are. A document will know when it needs to be reviewed. It knows what its retention schedule is. It knows what type of document it is, so the search within SharePoint can be much more powerful. You can use it to create business processes. So we'll very quickly create a very basic new starter process. SharePoint's got lots of functionality in there where you can create workflows so that you can have processes that lots of people can collaborate on at the same time. It's accessible from everywhere, and in the background SharePoint's working a way to make sure that people are being informed that they need to do things when they need to do it. Very easy to get started, but very sophisticated tools, and there's lots of scope for building lots of processes that can help your business work much more efficiently. And it's also used for storing data. It's not a full-blown relational database system, but to create very sort of simple lists, taking things from Excel and putting them into an intranet environment so that you don't have lots of Excel sheets being sent around by email for people to update and then collate. You can do a lot of that stuff within SharePoint so that you've got one source of the truth and one set of information that lots of people are coming in and collaborating on. Fundamentally, it is very easy to use. if you're going to be using it in earnest in your business, people will have to change the way they work. So there is training implemented. People will have to be trained on how to do that. Because it's an easy system, it's very important that you don't assume that people don't need some sort of training and some sort of guidelines into how to use it, when to use it, when to use certain features. It's really important that people are walked through the process of change when this is implemented. It's available to everybody, it's available everywhere, so it's certainly if you're using Office 365, people can access it securely from home or from their mobile devices. It gives you much better search functionality if you're using it to store documents. It's very secure. Microsoft have got an armful of security accreditations, and the data centers that SharePoint is hosted from are, well, they're run by the biggest software company in the world, so they take security very, very seriously. And it's also very useful for GDPR. We're working with lots of clients who have old shared file stores with literally millions and millions of documents on them. They haven't got the faintest idea, to be frank, what documents they've got, what data they have, who owns it, what the permissions are on that document, what any retention policies are. And by moving all that information into a proper document management system, it means that you can start to get to grips with that. And as you store documents within the system, you can label it, and you can let the system be self-managing to a certain extent. You store a document, you tell the document what its retention schedule is. After the 5 years or the 7 years, that document will automatically delete itself and then tidy itself up. So it can be highly useful for that. I'm going to flick straight over into the basic SharePoint site. Okay, so out of the box, this is what you see when you first set up SharePoint. This is a very basic SharePoint site. It's based on a two-site template. And when you create one of these, you literally get a news feed, which, to be honest, we tend to delete, and you get a document library, and this is the document library. And this document library is a fundamental thing that you use to store documents within SharePoint. But it's very basic. To create a new document, you hit the new button, and all of the basic Office type documents pop up, and you can select one to create. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to say creating a Word document, and this then takes me to Office Online, and all of the Office document formats that have got an online version. This is very much like Google Docs if you're used to using Google Docs. Directly from within the browser, it's now creating a Word document, and I can come in and I can start typing. It's got more basic functionality than Word itself has got, but it works in a very similar way. You've got the ribbon menus, and it has actually got a decent amount of functionality. So I can make my policy lists. I can insert tables. I can bring pictures in. Really, all of the basic document editing functionalities there are available to me without leaving the browser. And in an online environment, this is great because this is where I can go home. I don't need to have Office installed. I can work on my iPad. You can do hot desking within the organisation. But as long as you've got access to a browser and you can log in securely, then you can edit in Word. If I want to change the name of this document, I'll literally click on the top, and that's the document name. So very easy, very intuitive. One thing that's of note, really, when you're working in the online environment, is as you're typing, the document's automatically saving itself. So if you just have a look at the top, as I type, Literally, as I'm typing, the edits that I'm doing are being saved directly into SharePoint. So this is really important because obviously in an online world, if the internet connection goes down, you don't want to be losing your work. So as you're working, literally every second, every couple of seconds, your work's being saved to the server. And if I literally just shut down this browser, I'm not going to lose anything. Because we're working in an online environment, one of the really good benefits is that you can do co-authoring. What this means is more than one person can work on the documents at the same time. So I've got Nicole with me. Nicole's just dived into the documents, and without doing anything, Nicole's now editing the document from her laptop, and this can be done from anywhere in the world. Now again, in terms of really good online working and collaboration, if you have a deadline, if you're working on a tender or a big report, and you've got 3 or 4 people contributing to that, you don't have to check out the document, take your own copy of it, ask people not to edit it while you're doing it, and then email it round for comment. You can literally all be working on it at the same time. And it's great because Nicole types again. You can see exactly what the other people in there are working on. And we've done this in end user sessions where we've got literally a dozen people all editing the same documents and dropping images, creating tables. Really good functionality. If I want to, I can press the button at the top. I can say edit in Word. This is going to open full-blown Microsoft Word, and I can carry on working on the same document within there. And then I've got all of the Word functionality available to me. So I can exit here. So this will take me back into my document library. And you'll see there's the document that we created. If I click on it, I go straight back into the document. All my changes are saved. And I can carry on working on it. So let me go back. So as I said before, this works exactly the same with Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, and Visio. So with all of those, I can literally click New, add the documents, and start working directly from the browser. Because I'm working with documents, one of the things I might want to do is create folders. So very similar to how you'd work normally in your file system. You can begin to have some basic organisation of your documents. So I've created a folder, and now I'm just going to drag and drop these documents up into that folder. Drag and drop. I think Nicole's actually got these open, so but you get the idea. We can create folders, we can move documents in, we can move documents around, and we can start to organise documents as we normally would. So let me show you how you do that maybe in real life. So I've created a marketing document library. I want to upload some folders from my local machine into that library. So here's my local hard drive. And I've got some marketing documents here. So I've got a folder called logos on my local machine. So literally all I'm going to do is I'm going to say new, create my logos folder on SharePoint. Just go into there. I can take some of these logos. And just drag them up into SharePoint. And that's copying them out. So These logos are now covered up. Some of these are PNG files, SVGs. So you don't have to just work in with Office documents. You can store any sorts of file within SharePoint. So that's some logos uploaded. Let's have a look what else I've got in there. Okay, so I've got some templates. So let's create our templates folder. Set these on my local machine. Hopefully just try and drop them. Actually, into the wrong place. That's fine. Just select them and drop them down into the templates folder. Okay, so really quick and easy to move files from your local machine up into SharePoint. Just to prove that they're there, and click on one of the documents that I've just uploaded. That's open the documents, and that's ready to go. You need to start working on it and editing this and sharing it. Obviously, that's fine if you've just got a few documents to upload. When you start migrating in earnest to SharePoint, you've probably got hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of documents to move up. And this is really where you need to start making a decision as to whether you're going to bulk migrate all of your documents that you're storing on shared drives or local drives up into SharePoint, or whether you want to do a tidy up exercise first to get things organized before you move things up. Or what quite a few of our clients do is they decide that they really don't want to start moving in bulk what they've got on the shared drive because it's really not in a state to be moved up into a proper document management system, especially if you're trying to create something that's a lot more tidy and highly structured. And so what they do is they tell people that from a certain date the shared drive is going to be made to be read-only, but it will still be accessible. And then they ask people to create new structures and more organized ways of storing their libraries. And from a certain date, they say, okay, any new documents that you create have to go onto SharePoint. So from that date, we're going to make the current shared drive read-only. And then hopefully we can just get into a better place and a more organized place. They then have a second date by which time they're saying, okay, people are now working in SharePoint, all new documents are being created in it. We'll now take that shared drive and we'll migrate it up into an archive system within SharePoint. So we'll create a site just for archived documents. So again, what you're not doing is you're not messing up your nice new structures with all of the historic mess that many of us have on our shared drives. So there is a tool for doing this. So Microsoft, this is a new tool from Microsoft. It's a very basic tool, really. It's still, I think, officially in beta version. But it's a SharePoint migration tool from Microsoft. It's free to download. And what you can do is you can point it at your file share, certain folders in your file share, point the other end of it at your SharePoint Online environment, and then hit the migrate button at the bottom, and that will automatically transfer all of your files up into SharePoint, and it retains the created dates, modified dates, creates the permanently maintains the owners of the files, and it just sort of leave it nice and lovely files like that. There are different tools available with more functionality. But really just to get you going and starting to move some new documents up there, the SharePoint migration tool isn't a bad place to start really. So that's fine. So we basically recreated within SharePoint a typical document structure that we might have on a local file drive. But what we're not really doing is getting any benefits from using SharePoint apart from the fact it's now online. It might be a bit better organised and we can do some of the nice collaboration things. What we really want to do is to start using some of the categorization functionality and the tagging functionality, which is in SharePoint, which is where we really start to drive value out of it. So what I've done is I've created a separate policies library just to demonstrate this. I'm going to show you sort of very quickly how you can start to organise in a much more formal and structured way your documents. So the first thing I'm going to do is upload a few policies. And the thing I'm going to do now is I'm not going to create any folder structures. So I'm going to organise these files literally just by adding tagging to the files. So I'm going to take sort of 8 to 10 documents. I'm going to drag and drop those into the file. Again. So because this is your company's policies, there's different things that you need to do when you're managing policies. So one of the first things to do is a policy will need to be reviewed on a certain date. So what we're going to do is within the library settings, we're going to start to add columns, which are tags really, which allow you to describe what these documents are. So the first column that we can create for the policies is going to be a date column, and it's going to be a review date. We're going to add it in as a date and time column. Okay. So we've now created a column. Try this again. Date and time column. Okay. It's giving me some options as to what format of date I want to display this date as, and the default value for it, which I'm just going to leave blank. Hopefully, when I press OK, there we go. So that's now added the review date column to it. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to create a column that describes who owns this particular policy. So we've got all of the policies for the company in this library, but different departments own different policies within that. So I'm going to create a department column. I'm going to make this into a choice. And then I'm going to list a few departments that might own policies within the organisation. So this is going to be a selection box. Okay, so each of the policies are now going to have review days and departments. What else might we need to add? So we might then want to say, is this policy published? And have that as yes or no. So if one of your policies are being reviewed and into a review cycle, it's important to know what state they're in. So by creating this yes or no box, we can actually flag against the policy that is currently being reviewed, and that this current version of the policy isn't being published to the website or to the internet or whatever official is going to be for these policies. Okay, so if we now go back into the library, you'll see on the right-hand side here, those 3 columns have been added. So against each policy, we can now say, we now start to describe what the policy is, who owns it, and what it is to review. So because I don't want to go into each of those policies individually in the setting, I'm going to quick edit view. I'm going to add some review dates in there, which I'm going to make for a year's time. So we can do, let's try that down. Start my review dates and just going to go down here. Okay, so there's some different dates there. And I'll select the departments for each of the policies. And I'll just set whether they're published or not. So now, for each of the policies, I can very quickly go in and let me just sort it by department. I've allocated the policies to the departments. I'm starting to manage directly within the document library the publishing aspects of each of the policies, and I can very quickly go in, see when a policy is due for review, see whether it's overdue, start to remind people of the work that they need to be doing to keep on top of these. That's great. Still fairly limited functionality, useful though it is. One of the things you might want to do is create a view just for the finance department or just for the HR department so they can go into a page and just have a look at their policies. That's really easy to do. You've got the views menu at the top, so I can create a new view. And a view is just like a report, I guess, or filtered list. And create a standard view. I'm going to call this finance documents, finance policies, I guess. I'm going to change the order of these because I prefer the modified policy and the modified date to be at the end, at the right-hand side of my display, because what I'm most interested in is when these need to be reviewed and whether they're published rather than when they're modified. So I've just changed the order of the columns. I'm now going to put a filter in. So I'm just going to show the finance documents. Okay, there we go. So I've now filtered this library down to just bring back the finance policies. I can quickly go and have a look at which of the policies are published and which are waiting to be published. And I can have a look at the review dates so I can see what they need to be processed. And this really is the fundamental concepts of how SharePoint works. So rather than having a very simple way of managing documents, where you can create folders, you can put documents in folders, and that's all the control you've got. What you can now, you can carry on doing that, you can carry on using folders if you want to, but you can start to get much more clever in how you do it. So this policies library, I mean, this could be a project library with 5,000 documents in it. But very quickly, you go into your project library and you can pull out all of your specifications or all of your project plans or monthly reports, and it wouldn't matter where they're stored within your folder structure, because each of those documents has been tagged and it's got a type and a date and an owner. You can just get directly to the documents that you want and sort and filter. It's a much cleverer way of working, really. As you start to get more advanced, because these documents have been properly tagged, you can start to create workflows. So you can create a workflow on this library where a month before this review date, the finance manager would get an email saying that you need to go in and review this document. You can have a workflow that checks any documents that haven't been published by a particular review date and send a list to the quality manager, so that the quality manager can just be reminded without having to remember to go into this particular library to manage the system. So you can start to do some much more complex processes. We're currently working with County Council, and they're using SharePoint to manage all of their correspondence that comes in from the public. So people sending queries about council tax or social care or road maintenance. All the documents get scanned in the mailroom. Those scans get dropped on people's desks. They get sent an email to say there's something that they need to attend to. They come into SharePoint, they process it. Within SharePoint, they're tagging each document to say that it's been processed and what stage it's at. They can very quickly forward the document onto a colleague if something else is doing to that document. And it's really is a very sophisticated operation, all based within the SharePoint system. And we work with lots of clients to do things like capital expenditure requisitions, holiday management, new starter processes. One of the things with SharePoint is it's not just all about documents. So the same concept can be used within a SharePoint list. So here's a SharePoint list, and this operates very much like an Excel worksheet or an Access table. Just like I did with document library, I can come into here, I can create columns. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a very quick new starter process. So the concept of this is somebody joins a company, there needs to be a central place to manage the things that have to happen for that user to start work. So they need a desk, they need a PC, they need a swipe card, they need to be put onto the induction course. So we're just going to create a few columns for that. So we've already got a title which we can use to store the person's name. So the first column we're going to create is a simple yes, no column, which says PC provisioned. PC provisioned and it's going to be yes, no box. Create another column which is to manage the induction course. And this is going to be a date and time column. So it's going to record the time and the date that they're booked into the course. And we're going to add another checkbox for swipe card. Let's do yes and no. Okay, and that's my new starter process created as a SharePoint list. So now if somebody new joins a company, the HR person who's appointed them can come into here, say create an item, and type in the name, blogs, PC provision, the spot card hasn't been requested, but I have put them on the induction course 14th of April. I will start and store note that's on this site. Okay, and there's my new starts ready to the left. Now it's somebody else on. Do the same again. So that's my new starters. IT department can come in, they can create their own views of the list, so the things that they have to do, they've got pop in here, and they can come into here, they can see that they've got PCs with provisions. If this was set up properly, they'd be able to see what department that person was in, what their role was, what permissions they needed to be given on the network. They can come in, edit this item as they do the work, tell the system that the PC has been provisioned. That saves it directly into the list. And then the lovely thing about this is literally as soon as they've done it, the HR person who's managing this person, starting the company, can come in and say, excellent, their PC is ready for them to go when they arrive on the 18th. And that's instant, so you're not having to, as I said earlier, have an Excel spreadsheet that different people are trying to update, and it's been emailed around all over the place. And also, you're not having to create a really complex database system for managing this. And obviously, you can get more and more complex as you go into it. But for a team of 3 or 4 people to keep track of work they're doing, to keep track of tasks that they might be working on, manage calendars or use it for marketing and manage marketing tasks that they're working on. It's great because it's very self-service. You don't have to put an IT request in to start setting this type of thing up. And really, this is the concept of SharePoint. You create lists to manage stuff that's going on within the organisation. You create document libraries to store and manage documents. But the whole benefit that you get is because you're working in a web site environment, is you can start to get things much more highly structured. So if I drop into so this is AMT Evolve's SharePoint Online site that we use for our intranet. So you come into here. This is a home page, so it's a portal where you can very quickly go into different tools and applications that you need in order to do your job. You've got Twitter feeds and news coming into the home page. We've got a nice YAML feed here, so this is what we use to collaborate, organise sort of social events and sort of other things that we talk about within the organisation. But across the top, we've then got this structure of SharePoint sites that we've created. So within business services, the IT team can come into IT and all of their documents, all of their task lists and other stuff that they work on is stored on the site within the business services area. So in marketing, sales, finance and HR, we've got their areas which aren't shown because I don't have access to log in to get into those. And rather than everything just being thrown into one massive shared drive system, it's all nice and organised. In a similar way, the production team got their sites, we've got the development sites, we've got the developers resources on there. The Office 365 consultancy team, they've got all their templates and all their discussions around how to do Office 365 consultancy better. And the project management team, so they've got all the work schedules and all the details of all the clients and projects and how they're going on. We've also got a projects area, so every client that we work with has got their own site, and that's where all the client documents are stored, all stored nice and securely. We have a thing called rights management, where it's a part of the Office 365 environment. So we can label if a document's confidential, we can just tick a button, and that means that that document can't be shared or emailed outside of the organisation. So again, from a GDPR point of view, it's a really good way of making sure that information stays where it should be and that it's protected in quite a clever way. And then we've just got a couple of links to some of the demonstration sites that we have. And then if you want to get really fancy, this is a full-blown intranet system, again, all created within SharePoint Online, using very much standard SharePoint functionality, but just taken to the next level again to create a full-blown corporate intranet. And this is the very quick look at the home system, which you'll find on our website, which is basically a toolkit that you can take out and use to very quickly build on your SharePoint Online environment an intranet for you. So that's all I was wanting to cover today. Hopefully that gives you a very, very quick flavour of some of the things that you can do with SharePoint Online. One of the things that we do offer, because often it's very difficult to know where to start with all of this, is we've got a number of packs that we can sell to companies, which starts at just a few days where we can come in, we can do some of these workshops with some key staff within the organisation, show you what SharePoint can do, give you some more demonstrations, and talk to you about the type of things, the pain points that you have within your organisation that you think SharePoint or Office 365 could help with. And then from there, we can start to work out a plan for you to implement some of these tools and work out how best they can fit within your organisation. One of the lovely things about Office 365 is it isn't a system where you design it once, you install it everywhere, and it has to be a big bang approach. It's very much a step-by-step approach where you can do a little bit, people start to get used to it, you can do a little bit more, people can get used to that, and then what happens then is that generates ideas within the organisation of how you can use this to really benefit how you work. The thing that we're really about as a company is using technology to make organisations more efficient. And over time, we've worked in lots of different tools and technologies, but SharePoint Online and Office 365 really is a fantastic tool for doing just that, helping companies do what they do better and get themselves better organised and more efficient. If you're interested in hearing some more about it or having another look, please do get in touch. We're very happy to do a one-to-one demonstration of it, sort of over a Skype conference, or like I say, we've got various packs that you can buy off us and we'll come in and do some more sort of workshop work with your organisation. Really hope you found that useful. Nicole will be in touch in case you have any questions, and we'll package this video up and we'll stick it online in case you've got any comments that you want to have a look. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend.